What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Board Shorts and Banter podcast. This episode, I can't even speak. I can't even speak when I'm not with Tom. This episode is a little bit weird because I haven't got my sidekick, my buddy, my pal, Mr. Tom Stockton. He's over in Ibiza, living it up, raving, misbehaving, doing whatever he is. But luckily, I've managed to replace him, not just with one, but with three guests this evening. I guess you could call this show the Pro Show because I'm joined by Qais Butt, WNBF Pro, Charlie Brisbourne, WNBF Pro, and David Langsdale, WNBF Pro. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Very good. Yourself?
I am great. I can't wait for us all to talk at the same time and then the podcast to just be, unaudible. So, yeah. Let's go through each of you and you can introduce yourself and tell the people where and when you turned pro. Qais, take it away, my boy.
Hi, so I'm Qais Butt, so I am definitely the most recently turned pro out of the boys here. So I turned pro just over 3 weeks ago now, just over 2 weeks ago now, at the WNBF UAE. So that was my first show of the season. Really big show. Lots of athletes. I think about 80 odd men's physique athletes. We've already done a podcast going over it, so you can refer back to that to go through everything that happened. But yeah, being a pro for about a couple of weeks, and then made my pro debut at the Supernaturals.
Indeed, you did. That podcast with you last has done really quite well.
Has
it? Quite a lot of messages, and I think it's got around 500 views on YouTube, which is pretty decent for a podcast.
Mate, Qais ain't messing around. At the show at the weekend, I got to witness how many people were going up to him saying, "I love what you're doing. You're inspiring with your content," so it's good to see.
Half of the show was Qais' posing clients.
Mate.
Next year, it's going to be sponsored by Qais Butt.
Yeah, man. Mate, it was overwhelming. Well, I had obviously a lot of people saying they love the YouTube video, but I think about 25 people in the show said they love the podcast with you boys and me in it, in that show. That came up to me. That was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Right, Charlie. My man, my beautiful boy that I get to see naked on my phone every single morning. Introduce yourself. You're the only one that's not been on the podcast before, so you need to tell the people exactly who you are and all that shit.
All right, so Charlie Brisbourne, WNBF Pro. As of 2022, I went out to the Worlds off the back of qualifying at the 2022 Supernaturals, where I took second place to Mr. Langsdale, who pipped me on that occasion. And won the short class out in LA, got the pro card off the back of that, then kind of took 2023 to chill and just recover to a degree and decide what I was going to do or not do with the whole pro situation. And then, made my pro debut, obviously the weekend just gone at the Supernaturals, and managed to snag third place one way or another. So
indeed, you did, mate.
We've got a few more lined up. We'll go into that. But that is me.
Indeed it is. How old were you when you turned pro, Charlie?
It must have been 31 because I just turned 33 over the weekend at the Supernaturals. So seasoned, getting ever closer to that Masters category.
Yeah, mate. It's only a couple of years away, and then you're going to be a PCA Masters boy. That'll be cool.
We'll see.
It's weird how, between us, we've all turned pro at very different ages. I suppose me and Qais, we're like the closest, but even then, I think I won my pro card when
you turned pro a lot younger, though, because you did it a couple of years ago, so it was a lot younger than me.
Yeah. I did it. I won my card when I was 24.
Yeah, a lot younger.
Pretty cool, that, thinking about it.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Right, David.
So yeah, I won my pro card a couple of years ago, about 20 minutes or so after Charlie did at the Worlds, because we were luckily that day in separate height classes, which means when it's your time, because Charlie then went on to take the overall. And if I'd have been a centimetre shorter, I wouldn't have won my pro card that day. As I won the Supernaturals few weeks before that, got beat by Jovan in the overall. And the year before that, winning the Supernaturals, I got beat by Josh in the overall. So it swings and roundabouts in this game. But I've just realised I've shared the stage with all three of you now.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Has anyone else here shared it with all three?
No. I've not
me
competed
and
against
Josh
Kez or
still haven't
Charlie.
yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We've not touched tips yet, have we, Kez?
We need to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I'll be sat watching.
I'm actively avoiding going anywhere near Charlie when Charlie's shredded.
And David has
so you all
shows, to be fair.
You are?
David has done about 58 shows, so he's competed
It's not far off that.
David, how old were you when you won your pro card?
35?
Oh, you've officially disclosed your age.
Yeah, I don't mind it at this point.
Are you serious, David?
Yeah, I'll be in the Masters before long. No, never ever. I've said to myself, I'll never ever do Masters.
Why?
Because why would I want to? I want to be an Open.
Nah, mate. David, take this as a compliment. I thought you were in your early 30s, mate.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been convinced for a very long time that David lies about his age to sound impressive.
Maybe my mum lied to me. Maybe my birth certificate's wrong.
Mate, maybe it is. She might have just mixed it up with someone else called David. not even called David Langsdale, called David Peters.
Check his passport in Boston.
Oh. Yeah. Kez, can you turn your mic up, mate?
Give us a second.
Right, so yeah, you all competed at the Supernaturals at the weekend. David, did you get your placing at all?
I haven't yet, no. I did ask for it, but that information could not be accessed at the time because it was about 1:30 in the morning when I asked for it.
I think that's fair enough, isn't it? You know, it's fair enough. You're forced to wait so that people can go to bed.
Yeah, my guess is around 6th or 7th based on the fact I was in the first call out and then moved around a little bit and moved,
Yeah, I found that really confusing for you. Did you hear the podcast of me and Tom talking about it?
And to be honest, mate, you're bad at reading people because not for one moment did I think I'd won.
Did you not?
No, I thought I'd been moved out because I've been moved out. But it's different.
You were literally in the middle, both of you, and then moved you out done.
Yeah, but when you stood on the stage and you can see the judge looking at you, you can read whether it's a look of approval or disapproval. Do you know what I mean? And I looked at him. And he looked at me. I thought, he's going to move me. I did think he'd move me to the side, not to the back of the stage. But yeah, I was well aware what was going on.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I mean, to be fair, obviously I was mostly at the back watching the good guys be moved about. But I think I thought they got it pretty spot on, judges, to be fair, in terms of placings. I would have placed them fairly similarly, to be honest. I thought maybe the guy in 5th, maybe some of the other guys, David, maybe one of the Italian lads could have snagged a 5th, I think, maybe. But other than that, I thought it was pretty fair the judging, to be honest. That David Hosto was brilliant, and I thought he was well worthy of the win.
Yeah, but I'm not knocking any of them. I obviously did the judging call earlier on in the week, and it was like, we are rewarding a more muscular look. And of all the people on that stage, I wouldn't have even put David in the top 5 of the most muscular people in the class.
I would.
Would you?
Yeah.
Really?
The thing is, he has the shape and he has muscle as well. So, yeah, he is very muscular all over. It's just because he has a small waist that... Maybe, he doesn't have as much muscle as Charlie, but I thought he had the best combination of everything.
I thought David Odario whatever his surname is. I always pronounce it wrong. Odario used to be a
D-Lock.
left back. D-Lock, Mr. D-Lock. I thought he had, like, alongside Charlie, probably the most muscle on stage. And, you know, just based off of what they were saying, if you were comparing D-Lock and the guy in second, I would have had D-Lock over the guy that plays second.
But then
that guy was peeled though. The guy in second, he
Yeah.
was like, he had striated chest, and he had really good shape as well. So it's one of them.
Striated abs. He was. You're right. Absolutely diced.
I think the way to always look at it is because we're all going to have our preferences in physiques. But when you look at the ranking, I think the best way to look at it is like not what do I think's better, but what's different. So what's David got that, say, I don't know, someone else might not have? Well, he's got a small waist and he's got really wide capped shoulders. So that's obviously what they've gone for then. You've just summed it up well with those two, with D-Lock and the guy that came second. Guy that came second's more shredded. So the judge obviously preferred those shreds over the size there. And then there's a balance to it, isn't there? So who's ticking the most of boxes, and then almost like a ranking out of 10 on each of those boxes and filling them the most, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it was far off as well. I can agree with the judging.
Yeah. Charlie? Sitting there, Mr. Quiet?
I'm just letting the pro podcasters just talk it out.
If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit of that. I mean, looking back at kind of the shots, to be fair, from what I've seen from the stage shots, the guy who won looked better in those shots than what I perhaps thought maybe he did on the day.
Yeah.
Those poses that hits for those shots are fantastic shots for him. I think looking at those photos as well, it makes it quite apparent it's really tough to judge men's physique when you've got such different heights. Like, we literally are lined up like Russian dolls. Like, it makes me look shorter and stouter. It makes the tall guy look bigger and longer. And then obviously then it makes the winner, David, look like nicely in the middle. Proportions really, really good when you're next to a really short guy and a really tall guy. So, I mean, that makes it a very tough class to judge, especially when it's like the 28th class of the day. There is always going to be difficult to judge that last class as well as possible. But I mean, on reflection, like when I was up there and we were all being moved around, I mean, there was moments where I thought, I've completely fucked it here. I'm not even in the mix. And then there was moments where I was like, oh my God, now we're looking good. Like, and by the end of it, I was just happy to come off with a medal, to be honest. Like, there was guys I felt could have placed better. Again, whether it's a criteria thing, I don't know. I think Kojo was hard done by not to be in the mix for the sake of, again, if muscularity is like one of the big driving things, like you're not going to find many more muscular than him. From watching the posing when I was at the back of the stage, you could definitely see when certain people's posing let them down a bit, and I think that hurt a few of the guys. I saw our David get pulled up for not having his hand on his hip, and then I think it was after that you got moved out. So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It's probably the first time I've been on stage in a long time where I've got to the end of all the comparisons and thought, I've no clue here. I don't know who's winning. Yeah. I don't know who I'm getting on, which was kind of nice, but then kind of like not.
I think it's a lesson, though, for people listening that never lose your composure on stage. It actually happened to me in the Worlds in 2022. I was on the end of the line the whole time, and then I got moved in a little bit, never anywhere near the middle, and I thought at best I've come fifth here, and then I won my pro card. So there are judges that will mix it up from time to time. So the important thing is to stay composed. And I actually had the same in Dubai as well. I wasn't in the first call out, stood at the back of the stage, felt the same as Charlie, felt deflated, like, what? I'm not in it. And then I got switched and I was in it and I ended up coming top 5. And then at the weekend, I've had the opposite. I've got put in the middle and then moved out. But I don't mind that personally as a competitor, because I think judges should be able to look and change their mind and move people around. Because at the end of the day, I've seen it in shows before where they'll pick a top 5 and then they don't look at anyone else. And I think people should be given another chance to be compared with people rather than be on opposite sides of the stage and you go, okay, well, he's come 7th, he's come 8th. But how? Because they've not even been near each other on stage. So I think it's good to move people around and give people more than one shot.
Yeah, I agree. I had a lot of people message me since the weekend asking for feedback, in the amateur classes. And probably the most common bit of feedback that I've given out is if you're not in the mix, that doesn't mean that you have to stop working. So people that are stood at the side or the back of the stage, because they're not in the first call out, they just kind of like gave up. Could see it in the body language. There were one guy that literally teared up, and I was like, mate, it's not done. It's not done until they've read out the bloody first, second, and third. You've got to keep working. You've got to, like you say, you've got to keep your composure and try and get yourself back in the mix. Because if you look good, if you deserve to be in there, you will end up in there eventually.
D-Lock was actually a case of that at the weekend. If you looked at his tall class, he was nowhere near the middle. He was in the first call out, but he was on the end of it. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh, okay, what's going on here? Because I said before the show he's a favourite to win the pro card. And he was nowhere near the middle, but then he got sharper and sharper. And because he was given time, the judges then noticed it, moved him in. And then before you know it, he's turning pro and coming, 4th in the pro show.
Yeah. Did you... well, again, me and Tom discussed it the other day, like how David just looked better and better, like the longer that he was on stage. Did you see that as well?
Yeah, for sure.
I saw it.
Yeah. Just mad.
Yeah.
Just mad.
Yeah, it was similar to me in the Dubai overall lineup. I think I was like the last person to be called out in the first call out. I was on the end. And as we paused, they moved me further and further into the middle. Ended up getting second in the overall. So it's one of them really where you've just got to keep on it throughout, regardless.
Yeah, I'd say you definitely got better.
Yeah.
From the moment you walked out to then, even in your class as well.
Yeah, definitely. So you just got to keep at it and keep on it 100%, regardless of what's happening with the call outs or anything like that, as David said. And you never know what's going to happen because you don't want to leave the stage thinking, oh, I could have done more. Like that's the worst feeling you can have. So you just got to put it all on that stage and then just let the judges decide after that, really.
Indeed. So from the weekend, we'll start off with you, Qais. What was the biggest lesson that you learned from your first pro show?
With regards to myself or just the process of
anything, mate. Anything.
I would say, these pros are serious in terms of the level of muscularity they have. I would say that's probably the biggest thing. There's a big disparity between the amateurs and the pros in terms of the muscularity. And I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. And you never know until you stand next to them. But when you do stand next to these pros, it's like, okay, there's still plenty more to improve on, I would say. As I said, I it's one of them where I would have liked to have been in like peak condition just to properly compare what I would actually look like next to the pros, because obviously I feel like I have aspects of my physique that not a lot of the other people have in terms of the shape, the small waist, the bubbly delts and all that sort of thing that is quite unique. So it'd have been interesting to see what that would have looked like, but still think muscularity difference would have been very evident. And that was a bit of a reality check for me, I suppose, which is a good thing. It's a good thing, and it just gives me more motivation to be even better next time.
Yeah, I think anyone's first pro show or the first time that they see a natural pro stage, as long as they have that reality check of I need to level up. Like I had mine by going out to Vegas 3 weeks after turning pro. I literally stood backstage and thought, I am tiny in comparison to these guys. Like I need to do something drastically different to be able to, take a title in this pro league. So yeah, mate, it's only going to benefit you in the long run. Imagine if you'd have finished your season in Dubai, you'd have been like, oh, I'm a pro now. I'm on such a high. Yeah. I'm just going to toss it off now. You can't do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. As I see it as a positive thing. As I said, it was I love the day as a whole. positive experience, good vibes. As I said, it was wicked to compete against you boys and everyone else on that stage. And yeah, as I said, it's all part of the journey. As I said, it'd be boring if you just went into every show and won it. You wouldn't really learn anything about yourself, really. So in the future, fingers crossed, if all goes well and I do win a pro show, then I'll look back at this moment with like fond memories, thinking, okay, I've gone from this to this, and that makes it even cooler. So, yeah, mate. Yeah, it's all good vibes with me.
Good man. Charlie, what was your biggest learning from the weekend?
I think the big thing really is like at that level, at pro level, realizing that you have not got room to make a fuck up really. Like I think that was the other thing with like us all being moved around as much as we were. Ultimately, at pro level, there is a very small line between who's winning and who's like at the bottom. Whereas in the amateurs, a lot of the time you can probably pick your top three out with it, like probably before they've even gone through a full set of quarter turns. But at pro level, it's just not like that. Like everyone is at least very good, if not very, very, very good. So for me, like I know that like my back pose was a bit off initially when I got up there. I was a bit tense, maybe a bit nervous, and that was making me kind of pinch up into that back pose. That maybe hurt me a little bit. But the reality is like with you guys all being up there at pro level, they're judging it based on who's got no weaknesses, not how good is somebody. And again, that's probably where they picked out David as, there isn't anything at fault there. If someone's faultless, you can't not have them win, really. It's from the posing to the stage presence, doing enough of it without it being too much. Even just simple things like just not pissing the judges off by like taking too long to get into your poses, not stepping over the line too far, keeping a hand on a hip, like whatever it might be. Like you've just not got room for error if you're going to be winning pro shows. So you got to be on it.
Indeed. David, take it away.
Yeah, well, having done a few shows already this year, in the last few weeks,
you're like the most experienced pro in the UK, I think. And I don't know many people that's done more pro shows than you.
I don't think there is, and I'm quite proud of that actually, because I'm just putting myself up there week on week and testing myself. But again, I'm getting to see how much the standards rise in. So I'd say when I won my pro card in 2022, I thought I'd be right up near the top as a pro, looking at who was on the pro stage that year. Then last year, realised it had gone up even more. And then this year, the standard's gone up even more again. And everyone is, I spoke to you about it before the show. Everyone is so good. And the margins in placings, like Charlie's saying, are so fine. But then I think as a pro, you've got to master your own mindset in terms of your confidence, because you can look at it and you can be intimidated by it and be worried to be seen to be losing, or you can see it as a challenge, keep putting yourself up there and realize that everyone else is really good and you should be confident in yourself as well. Because I felt so much better on stage on Sunday because I'd actually lost my expectation a little bit. And I was like, right, I don't care who I'm up against. I just want to be at my best. And I think bringing that to the stage will stand you in better stead than being almost like fearful of who you're up against. And I guess that's not just in the pros, that's at any level. Just be confident in yourself, know you've given your prep 100% and step on stage proud. So I'm just going to continue to do that.
Yeah. Sunday was the first time that I've sat in the crowd and watched you compete since you beat Charlie at the Supernaturals. The amount of, like, I know I've been critical to you, or like more opinionated to you, that you've not took any time off the stage, but you have made improvements over your short off seasons. And I just want to publicly praise you, mate, for the way that you've gone about it, because I don't know anyone that's prepped like you.
Yeah. Well, anyone that knows me who's like
wild.
close to me sees that I'm on it year round. So that 6 month off season is a productive 6 months. But then I am at the point this year where I'm thinking, right, what could I do in an 18-month off season?
Oh, I like that, David. I like it. Oh dear. Right, I put a questions box up for the people to obviously ask questions. So I'm going to fire some questions at you. Oh dear. Oh God, we've had quite a lot. Wow. First question that's popped up.
How many can you actually
Who'd
ask?
win? What's that?
How many of these questions are actually airable?
There's one that's not.
I forgot. Is it Ian Talbot Balfe?
It's Ian Talbot Balfe. Ian, this is a borderline one, mate, but still, it is unquestioned. I can't ask that question. Yeah. Anyway, Brett.Smith_masked iron. He's the owner of a clothing apparel company. Very nice guy. He has asked, who'd win in the pro down? So of all of us, who would win?
In what? In a men's physique?
Oh, obviously a naked arm wrestle. No, men's physique, Kez.
I honestly think that's a daft question because there's only one person here with a pro world title, so I think it answers itself.
Yeah.
But Charlie is very, 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 very good. So,
Josh.
Huh?
You'd win.
Thank you, Kez.
Yeah.
I think Josh would win it as well on the basis of, again, the height thing would help for sure.
I've beat Charlie before. I've never beat Josh before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is one thing that
And we
I've
have
got over you,
competed against
David.
each other more than once as well, so it's not even like it's you know.
Yeah. So
that's my proud achievement. I beat David Langsdale on
not the
multiple
world
occasions.
title.
No, not the world. Sod that. All right, sweet. Question answered. I would take the dub. Thank you, guys. Jake James Fitness, my boy Jake Morgan, placed 4th in the amateur tall class. He has asked opinions on routes in the natural game, i.e. WNBF, UKDFBA / PNBA. It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? I think there's only really UK's that's... I've competed with the UKDFBA before. In fact, David, you have as well.
Yeah.
Oh, and Charlie, you're too big for the UKDFBA, aren't you, mate?
As of the USN Classic back in 2014, yeah. Well, 2016.
Right. So, we've all competed with the UKDFBA, so we can have, formed opinions. I think for me, the UKDFBA are very much very proud to be British, and the biggest thing that you can do in natural bodybuilding is be a British champ. Like they've not got as greater intentions as taking a team overseas. Only if you're, I'm actually not going to finish that sentence. They're not as keen as taking people overseas as what the WNBF are.
Yeah, for me, when I did UKDFBA in 2020, was it? We did it, Josh? Yeah, so my goal back then was to be a WNBF pro. And the UKDFBA used to lead to the WNBF because to me, I've always seen it as the WNBF as in America and the world is the pinnacle of natural bodybuilding. So when that split happened, people said to me the following year, why are you not doing UKDFBA again? I'm like, because my intentions lie with WNBF. I want to be a WNBF pro. So yeah, for me, the pinnacle of natural bodybuilding as I've seen it has always been WNBF Pro, WNBF Pro Worlds. So I don't even think it's about UKDFBA. The fact that that's not affiliated with that anymore, yeah, I just think the WNBF's the way to go.
Yeah, I do. Kez, do you know when you won your UKDFBA British title, did you get the invite to go compete overseas?
Yeah, I did. So there was, I think it was 2 weeks or 1 week later, there was a European Championships. I can't remember, somewhere in Europe. But what I wanted to do was do the Natural Olympia. I think it was 2 weeks after that. I couldn't make the Europeans, and what they said was you have to do the Europeans in order to do the Natural Olympia. So I was like, nah, I'm all right. So I just went into an off season. But they did invite me. To be fair to them, but yeah, just didn't go. And to be honest, I'm it's one of them where when I watched it, I was kind of glad I didn't go. To be honest, because it didn't look like the best in terms of the standard of that European show. I mean, Jovan obviously smoked everyone at that show quite easily. In fact, I feel like the standard at the UK shows is a lot better than these European shows. Just because the people qualifying from them, the standard in some of these other countries is a lot lower. So it's a lot easier to kind of get into it. And the production of the shows don't look great as well. Obviously with the natural Olympia as well, the hashtag Pinnacle of natural bodybuilding, which it isn't, by the way. But
obviously,
I've heard not the best things about that particular show. So honestly, I'm glad I didn't go. But it was cool. It was cool to win a British title, and the actual UKDFBA British Championships themselves, they're really cool because obviously the level of athletes that do enter them are really high. So the standard is high at them shows. So as I said, I'd never turn people away from doing them shows because it's a really good experience and it's a good standard. But maybe give the Natty Olympia a miss if I were you.
Yeah, like I've obviously discussed it with Jake before, and the way that I like, surely if you wanted to compete with a federation or someone, surely it's got to get better as it goes up. With the UKDFBA being affiliated to the INBA, it's like really, really tough to get a British title, and then it's a doddle to get a European. And then, all right, okay, European was quite easy. It's even easier to get a bloody Natural Olympia one because the standard of that show really is low. So, like with the WNBF, to compete in the UK is tough. You go overseas, everyone kind of travels to each other's shows. So the standard's still really high in pretty much any international show. And then when you turn pro, the pro shows are all world class. Like they don't go handing out pro cards to anyone. You've literally got to be a national champion to get your pro card, or an amateur world champion like you guys. They're not easy to come by. Should we have another question? Charlie, have you got anything to add to the roots?
I think the WNBF are getting it right because all of the different countries associated work really well together. And that's a big key, whereas it all just seems a bit disjointed, where UKDFBA to PNBA and whatever else is concerned. Like the WNBF are very, very good from country to country at like linking up. They all speak to one another. They obviously have judges from one country coming over to another, and that makes it a far more stable machine, I suppose, to just keep cranking out better and better physiques, better and better shows, and consistently good shows as well. So yeah, WNBF.
Yeah, we bleed blue pro cards. Jack Gill _coaching has asked, are good genetics 100% needed to get a pro card?
No.
Define.
Ooh, David in there early.
Because, right, so genetics are going to have an impact at some point. But I'll take myself as an example, being older than you boys. It's took me years and years of training to build this physique, but I did not have good genetics for it. Whereas someone like, let's say, Jovan, for example, a lot younger, amazing genetics. So I think genetics will help you so far, but also if you're willing to be persistent and put in years and years, you can probably outgrow those genetics as well. And then there's other factors, obviously, that come into a pro card, like what show you turn up to, who you're up against, all that kind of stuff. But obviously, the person with bad genetics, what I'm saying is going to have to be more persistent than the person with the good genetics.
Yeah. How long have you been training for, David?
Over 15 years.
And how long did it take you to build like a physique that is worthy of putting on stage?
Yeah, I'd say it's 10 years plus, probably.
Wow.
I was just a very skinny kid,
Interesting.
And
I think
naturally,
you need
it takes
to. I
time.
think you need to document that a little bit more, mate.
Yeah.
Get a few throwbacks up there because
Struggled to
I
find them.
feel
There was no
like
cameras around when I was younger.
I feel like nowadays everyone's like a genetic freak at 16 and they're winning the
Yeah.
pro cards and national titles by the time they're 21. It's wild. So yeah,
It can
document
be
that.
off-putting as well, yeah, like you say, because there are a lot of freaks coming through and stuff like that. But some people are just going to have to be more persistent than others. I think if you ask the question, I don't know, can you win a pro world title without good genetics? That's a different question because at that point, everyone's worked hard to get there. And then the genetic factor, the structure of the physique and everything is going to also play a factor at the top level.
Do you think I've got good genetics then, David?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Like
I really don't.
Because in
your
terms
level,
of
Josh, your level of dryness, it's obviously you work hard to get into that condition, but not everyone can get that dry, grainy look.
yeah,
And
and
that is genetic.
it's not just
Right.
that as well. It's like your structure. Like if you look at your abs, they're perfectly symmetrical. They're deep, and then you got cap delts and everything. Like not everyone is going to have that, even through years of training.
Yeah.
Right.
Your
Okay.
muscle
Fair enough.
insertions and stuff like that are all in the right place,
Yeah, I think I just look at my own physique and I just pick it to pieces.
which we all do for
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice that you think that though. Charlie, what do you think? Genetics,
I think it's
are
more
they essential?
important. It's more important in men's physique than bodybuilding, just because you're being judged on less stuff. Like bodybuilding, you've got more points to be judged on. There's more poses. There's more muscle to show. So if you're a bodybuilder with shit biceps, well, you might be able to pull it back in the quad department, or whatever it might be. Men's physique, and again, depends on the federation. But let's take WMBF. That's what we're talking about. You ain't got much in terms of poses to work with. Like, so if you've only got like 5 or 6 points to cover and they're all genetically very bad, then it's going to be tough. Of course it is. But equally, if you've got like one body part that's amazingly good genetically, but then other body parts that aren't, then doesn't always work in your favor either, because sometimes it just draws attention to the fact that something doesn't match something else. I think that's where you're in a good position because, I think your genetics are good, but at the same time, there's not like oh my God, that is like a 10 out of 10 genetic whatever on your physique. It's like straight 8s across the board in terms of genetics. And that looks great in men's physique because everything matches up nicely. But but bodybuilding, you can definitely pull more back with shit genetics, definitely.
Charlie, you've obviously built shitloads of muscle. Have you always been, have you always found it easy to build muscle, or
well, this is the thing.
has it?
I get hit with this and I've been hit with this quite a lot over the years of like, well, you've obviously got good genetics for building muscle. My dad was a jockey, as in riding horses.
A DJ?
Like he was naturally and still is like 9 stone thereabouts, 9 to 10 stone. Like I've got 2 brothers, one of which was also a jockey. He's maybe 10 stone. The other one's a farmer. He's maybe 9.5 stone wet through. So I'm not from like a genetic gene pool of freaks. Pretty small, wiry, farmery jockeys is kind of the theme if I go back in my gene pool. So I'm not disputing that, obviously, like I've got good genetic elements to my physique, but similar to David, I've been doing this shit for a long time. Like I think I got a pair of dumbbells for my 13th birthday. So we're 20 years deep. So that
Wow.
does get overlooked.
Wow.
I
I think you need to send me photos of like your first year of competing, because that's like, you know, a good comparison of
2014.
where you were at. Yeah. Versus where you now. Kez, genetics. Also, how do you rate your own genetics, Kez?
It depends what you're asking on. And I'd say in terms of like aesthetics and shape, I would say pretty good. Obviously my waist is quite small. I have quite wide clavicles, like bubbly arms and delts. But then there's other aspects to genetics in terms of condition, muscularity, all that sort of thing as well. So I'm not like a freak muscularly, and I'm not like overly muscular, so maybe less genetically gifted on that. But yeah, I'd say maybe in terms of the way my body's put together, in terms of the shape side of things, I probably would have above average genetics, I would say. But I wouldn't say I'm some freak. Like maybe, I don't know. Let's just use Jovan as an example, since we're using Jovan. So yeah, I'd say probably above average, but as I say, I think people use that as a bit of a crutch, where they say, "Oh well, he has good genetics. That's why he's doing what he's doing." I still train hard. I've still been training for 10 years now, and it's taken time to get to this level. But as I said, I'm not at my full potential yet. I know that. I know there's gaps within my physique, and I know, and this might be genetic as well. Is like certain aspects of my physique just develop quicker than others. I have a better mind muscle connection with certain areas of my physique, and it's led to certain, let's just say, imbalances in my physique, where some body parts look a bit freaky and round, whereas others look a bit flatter, I would say, especially my chest. So yeah, so I think that's the goal for me now, is just to get a bit more balance to the physique, which is just gonna take time with the training aspect, really. But as I said, I find that aspect of genetics quite interesting, because people think, oh, it's just about shape and structure, but it's not. There's lots of different there's lots of different things which genetics can influence with bodybuilding that people don't really talk about. But as I said, I don't really think about it too much. I'm just like, okay, what do I need to improve on? Then I'll work on improving it, rather than, oh, what are my genetics in comparison to this person's genetics? It doesn't really do much for you, really, does it? So yeah.
Every so often, I'll get on a inquiry call, and someone will be like, "Oh, I don't think I've got the genetics to compete." It's like, everyone's got the genetics to compete. If you're able to like go to a gym and train, then you're genetically able to compete. And even if you don't, you can still do disability classes. So anyone can compete. Yeah, I think people just use it as an excuse for being small and not competitive. Oh, my genetics are shit. So people stop using excuses and start training harder. Right, a little bit of a light-hearted question from Ahern Joe J. Interesting name. Do you have a stage nickname like The Shadow, etc.? If so, what is it? If not, what would you have? Shall we do each other? So not like that. Like let's we can do each other, but let's give each other nicknames.
Let's do it.
I'll do David. David do Charlie. Charlie do Kez. Kez, you can do me, bro. David Langsdale. God, I'd call you Mr.
God. Oh, you straight in there.
Yeah. I think I'd just call you Mr. Relentless.
I'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take it away from the physique and just go purely for the mindset. Like, you are how many shows into your 5 shows in 5 weeks? Or is it 4 shows in 4 weeks?
So this weekend will be the 4th in 4 weeks, yeah.
Wow. And then you've got a 2-week gap, and then Germany.
3 weeks and then 3 weeks. So 3 weeks to Germany after that, 3 weeks to Worlds, I believe.
Brill. Yeah, Mr. Relentless. David, do Charlie.
The Abs. Charlie the Abs Brisbane.
The abs.
Okay.
Mr. Abdominal.
I'll take that.
Your abs are big, dense, and deep.
Needs to be more.
You need what?
Need to be more tapered.
More tapered. Yeah, more tapered. Kez, have you seen any photos of Charlie
I have.
on stage from the weekend? Do
Yes,
you think
yes.
posing could make him
Yes.
look more? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Right.
I
Is
think
this-
your midsection is that detailed that you don't need to crunch down as much as you are on them, because when you do that, it actually thickens your waist. So what you do, I don't know if you're doing it, is you're curving your spine a little bit, I feel, to get onto your abs, and it actually just thickens your waist. And your midsection is so detailed that I don't feel like you need to do that. And I also feel like at times you can angle your hips a tiny bit more to the side. Maybe not in America, because I think they don't like that. But at other shows, especially PCA, you're doing British, aren't you? You can definitely angle your waist more to the side, I believe. And I also think you can play around with what you're doing with your hand on hip to get your delt to pop a bit more, because I feel like you're very torso dominant in terms of your physique, and I feel like you can display your arms and delts to get them to pop a little bit more with your posing. But yeah, we can discuss in more detail later on if you
I'll send you my stripe details, brother.
Nah,
Kez has
nah,
just
nah.
sold within a minute of how good his posing coaching is, hasn't he?
David, I'm going to pretend that Kez isn't here. Kez is the only person that I would trust now for posing coaching. I've seen what he's done to a few of my boys, and it is second to none. He's brilliant. And also, just some of the people that Kez has worked with, I've judged them before and thought, your posing is diabolical and you cannot recover it. And then Kez has done his bit and completely changed it. So, yeah, a skill set like Kez has got cannot be ignored. That's why I'll always ask Kez's opinion on all of my clients.
I appreciate that, mate.
I agree with that as well. And the funny thing is, like, my missus, who is nothing to do with like anything bodybuilding related, like she's a nurse. We went back to the hotel obviously after the show at the weekend, and it's like 2:30 in the morning, and she was showing me pictures she'd taken of me, and she was like, you know what the biggest thing you like messed up on? You were crunching too much on your abs and you were rounding off on your shoulders. And she was showing me the angles, and she basically just said exactly what Kez was saying. And I was like, oh, I'll have to speak to Josh about it. I'll see what he says.
Has she thought about becoming a posing coach?
You know what it is?
You get paid loads.
When people are detached from bodybuilding, they tend to, a bit like your missus, Josh, like they have a really kind of straight,
definitely
direct opinion on things and can go, that looks shit, or he shouldn't win. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just they have a very good kind of outlook on it without it being blurred by like, oh yeah, but they've been coached by so and so, or oh, they've done such and such a show. They just see it and take it for what it is, which is quite refreshing. So yeah,
It is, isn't it?
I agree with Kez, and my missus will be glad to know about that as well.
Yeah. And also, Charlie, I've said this on the podcast before, but the women are always right.
Touche.
They are. And you can't argue with that either, because you'll get told that they are by them. Charlie, Kez's nickname.
Smooth mover.
Oh, baby.
I'll take that. I'll take that all
Kind
day
of
long.
speaks for itself, really.
Sweet.
Like, can't kind of get away from it. That is what he is known for.
Very much so.
Excellent.
And Kez,
Right.
where's my nickname?
I've got one. I don't know if I should say it live on air.
Well, if it's
I'm
terrible,
gonna say
then...
it. No, I'm gonna say it. Jay Freaky.
Oh, wow, Kez. Wow. Wow.
There we
That's
go.
gone straight over Charlie and David's heads, but of the listeners, half of them are pissing themselves laughing, and then the other half have no thoughts at all on what you're on about.
I'm gonna get a knock on my door pretty soon.
You are, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Let's do another one.
You're in danger.
Yeah. I will say the Golden Child.
Oh, yes. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll take that, mate. I'll take it. Thank you. Right. Ooh. Interesting one. When these shorts are hung up, what will you turn your focus to? So David and Charlie, you're both in a little bit of a different position to what me and Kez are, age-wise and competing. Have you thought much past, the end? Like, what are you going to do after bodybuilding?
Absolutely. So everything that I'm doing right now that might seem crazy to everyone is all with that focus on what the long-term goal is. So for me personally, I'm all in with stuff. So it's like if I'm competing, I'm all in with competing. So for that reason, I don't really promote my coaching much at the moment. But my long-term goal, and I've heard Josh say the same, so we're actually going to be rivals at some point. My long-term goal is to be the best natural men's physique coach in the world. But I'm not going to take on coaching full-time until I've given up competing. So everything I'm doing at the moment is a learning experience for myself to see just how far things can be pushed and trialing different things. So when it comes to coaching, I've put myself through way more than I'll ever put a client through. So yeah, after competing, after the shorts are hung up, I'll be passing them on to my clients and the folks will be coaching.
I thought you were going to say you're going to set up a travel YouTube channel.
Well, I'll be traveling
for all the places that you're going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Charlie?
Well,
I'm not...
Go on.
Go on.
I was going to say...
No.
I've nearly hung them up a few times. I guess I have hung them up a few times, but then I've just pulled them back down again and gone, fuck it, we'll try it again. Because back in 2016, that was at the point where I kind of had fairly solid feedback that men's physique's kind of not really suited to you. Go down the route of bodybuilding instead. They wanted kind of slighter physiques back then. And then it was only off the back of seeing actually yourself, as in Josh, kind of doing damage at the Supernaturals and a couple of the other guys that placed well. I was like, these guys aren't slight. These guys have got some muscle. And I thought, you know what? After 2018, I think, was the last year I'd done any kind of competition. Went back into it in 22 to see whether I'd still kind of have a decent go at it. And then I went to obviously the British and then the Worlds, but without there was no part of me that had I wasn't going to bed praying to get a pro card kind of thing. It wasn't really on my radar in a weird way. But then when I got it, I was like, oh shit, I better do something with this. I know this is a big deal. So I definitely wanted to come back and at least kind of see how I measured up at pro level, which is what this year is all about. Beyond that, who knows? I know that my missus wants another kid, and 2 kids and prepping will be tough. Very tough. Having one is not easy, and prioritizing obviously the things you have to do when you prep. But I wouldn't like to say, I will never ever compete again after this year. I have different aspirations in terms of business and stuff that I can't think of anything worse, to be honest, than having a boatload of clients that are wanting to compete. I think hats off to any of you guys that deal with that type of client, because it's not an easy demographic to work with. My demographic with my PT and online coaching is always been kind of, let's say, more kind of normal clients that are after just kind of body composition improvements and want to look a bit better than average and feel a bit better than average. More so dads now because of me being a dad as well. And I'll keep pushing down that line beyond competing and probably be a bit more relatable to those guys beyond competing as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows beyond this year competition wise, but they'll definitely be getting hung up for a little while at least, the shorts.
You got to bring them back out for Masters though, mate. Clean up. We will clean up. Oh dear. Kez?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, this, for me, because, as I said, I still have lots of things I want to achieve within the sport. I don't feel like I'm close to my potential yet, but in terms of, for whenever that does happen, in terms of when I do hang up the shorts, it's interesting because obviously like this has been a very like transitional year in my life in terms of how everything's gone from a personal level, but also like the posing as well. It's obviously taking off this year, and it's just like really made me realize how passionate about bodybuilding as a whole I am, and how much I love it, and I'm falling more and more in love with it every single day. The more people I work with, so it's really sort of given me that belief that I can, yeah, really make something of it. So I think I'm just going to continue how I'm doing with the posing side of things, see where that goes, and then, as I said, just see where I am whenever I do decide to hang up the shorts. As I said, maybe I'd want to expand it further. Maybe I'd want to go into something else within the bodybuilding scene. Honestly, I won't know until I get to that point, and I'd probably want to settle down at some point as well after I compete. And then yeah, other than that, I don't have like a clear, I need to be here, here, and here. I think I used to think that because you kind of like you want to follow like the status quo, like, oh, I need to be married by this time, I need to have a kid by this time. But I don't know, as I've progressed throughout life, you just realize that life doesn't always work like that, and everyone has different journey and different times in which certain things happen. So I'm just enjoying the ride for now and just taking everything as it comes, and I'm loving life at the minute, so can't complain.
Good.
How
You
about
deserve
yourself?
it, mate.
Thank you very much.
I've had a pretty similar, no, maybe not similar, but there's some similarities. Maybe 2 years ago, I was in a position where I would have quite happily walked away from bodybuilding and online coach, like competitive bodybuilding and online coaching. I just didn't truly love it. But then over the process of last prep and like me and Annabella, like almost working as a team on my prep and then starting the podcast and almost like building my own community, or like with Tom, obviously, it's made me fall in love with bodybuilding in a completely different way. Like there's no part of me that dreads going to shows. I absolutely love being at shows, and I love talking to people because people that want to talk to me are people that are similar to me. I'm not like trying to force conversation with some weirdo online coach that, he just wants to fill the clients up with Trent. It's genuine connections that I'm getting a lot out of. So yeah, I think even if I didn't compete, I would have something to do with bodybuilding. On like a business front, I'm interested in all sorts of stuff. And I would say like, my biggest love, it's not necessarily coaching, it's being competitive. And coaching is allowing me to be competitive without having to do the dieting stuff. So like I'm truly, truly, truly loving it. But not because I'm like, I'm really enjoying writing diet plans for people. It's like you're doing something to be competitive. And that's my buzz at the minute. So yeah. Being around good people and being competitive. That is the goal and the aim. We have one more question, and then I'll let you boys go because we are pretty much 1 hour in. It's a simple yes or no question, and it is coming from Fion_Elliot. Mr. Stockton's not here today, so we can be very, very honest on this one. Do you think Tom will get his pro card next season? And if not, why?
No,
Why?
because he's going to Ibiza rather than knuckling down week on week in the gym. Because right. So what we're saying before and what I'm seeing is the standards getting higher and higher and higher. If you're taking, this is probably away from the subject a little bit. I think it's just some advice some people need to hear. If you take, so you're saying about me improving over a 6-month off season, for example, what a lot of people will do is they'll take a year out. And I'm not saying this is Tom because I don't know him well enough to be honest, but people will take a year out and then they'll be that far away from prepping that they'll lose motivation for bodybuilding. But if your goal is to be a pro, you need to take that whole year off and be on it all year, because the standard's only going to get higher in that year that you're off. Do you see what I mean? You've got to make the most of all of that time, I believe,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a balance to it, because obviously you've got your personal life and all the rest of it. You need to be happy in your head before you do a prep. All that stuff I get. But to go from being a contender to winning a pro card, I think you need to knuckle down and be on it year round if you're very serious about it. But the answer of no was actually a joke, but I thought there was a chance to make a point.
Yeah. Do you think Tom will have a chance next year?
I think he has, because he's got a very good structure.
Yeah.
He's got a very good shape, very good structure, very well balanced, symmetrical. So, yeah, if he grows and puts the size on, he's got a chance, yeah.
Yeah. Kez, go on, what were you saying, mate?
No, I was just going to say, I think he plans on doing quite a few shows. So it's one of them where it just depends on the lineup and who else shows up, really. But yeah, I think in the right lineup, he can definitely get a pro card for sure.
Yeah. Charlie, have you seen anything of Tom to be able to go, meh?
Yeah, I think when you look at the tall guys that are getting kind of rewarded, look at the tall guys that did well at the weekend, look at the tall guy who came second in the pro class. Yeah, I mean, when you are that bit taller, you're not expected to be quite as dense and bubbly. And obviously, I think Tom would agree that's not kind of where his strength is in his physique right now. So, yeah, I think from what I've seen, I judged him actually in 2023 last year.
Of course you did. Yeah.
And he was one of maybe 5 people I singled out that I wanted to actually kind of message and give some feedback to, not actually wait to kind of get asked for feedback. And that was on the basis that I thought he's good. He's got something if he kind of keeps going at it. On the flip side of what David said, though, like the problem you can have sometimes if you go kind of just at a year of kind of training hard with that thing, that goal of the pro card thing, to go back to my stuff, it was never my intention. But I've trained consistently for, well, obviously better and better every year, but for 15, 20 years. And it wasn't ever like a consideration. It was literally I love to train and I love to train in a certain way. Therefore, I don't take time off training because it's just what I do. And that has just been compound interest. And that's what I put kind of my density or my kind of look for where it's at right now down to. Not because I went, I'm going to take a year out or 2 years out to periodize everything perfectly and not go on holiday or whatever it might be. It's just I've never taken time off training, and I've trained well enough that time has taken care of that for me. There has to be a balance, I suppose.
It's just the consistency of it is, basically the point. And it's not like don't go on holiday. It's just I'm saying there's people out there that will listen to this that have a goal, but then they'll take a year off bodybuilding. I'm sure, Josh, you've had clients like it.
Mate, I've literally just
say,
had a client.
I can't wait to prep next year. And I'm like, well, you're not even sticking to anything in your off season. So, you know.
I'm just going to tell you a scenario that I've just found myself in, like literally a month ago. I did a photo shoot prep with a boy, overseas client, and he finished, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to have like 6 months off," and I thought he meant 6 months off coaching. I was like, "Yeah, whatever, mate, go for it." It was like, no, 6 months off training altogether. But then next year we're going to go for the pro card. I was like, you are an absolute clown, mate. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, there's some delusion.
Yeah. My answer on the subject of Mr. Stockton, obviously, as you all know, I coach Martin Lamont, and Martin has an outstanding physique, right? I've been to a pro show. He would not look out of place in a pro lineup. His legs are awesome, and he's very, very dense. Martin has been beat more times than he has won. And the people that have beat him I reckon like at least 80% of them have gone on to win their pro cards. He came third in Ireland. The guy that won the class potentially could have or should have been given his pro card in Ireland. And the guy that came second won his pro card by winning the overall in Portugal at the weekend. So no matter how good you are or how deserving you are of being, pro status, if one person shows up at every show that you do and he's better than you, then you're not getting it. Like, it's crazy. So Tom, yes, he's got potential, but he's not freaky enough to be undeniable. So if someone came and was like, oh, he's a freak, if D-Lock turned up, you wouldn't go, Tom, heads and tails. It's it's lights out, innit? D-Lock is that good, you're not beating him.
But that's the same for me, and that's why I had to be resilient and prep year after year after year until I got that one show. Like I was saying about the Worlds with Charlie, and then it's like, right, that was my moment, You have to put yourself up there more times to land that moment rather than do one show, give up, and take time out, I think. If you're in and around it and you're close to that pro card, just keep going.
Yeah. So, Stockton, keep going, boy. Keep eating your food. Stop going to Ibiza and train hard. Right, boys. An hour and 6 minutes in. I am very, very, very grateful for you all making the time for me and this podcast. Do you want to give yourselves a shout out, or shall I just put your links in the description?
Stick them in the description.
Yeah, it's a lot easier
Perfect,
that way.
David. Yeah, it's so much easier. Right, guys. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. We are actually dropping down to one podcast a week, but we'll discuss that in the next podcast because I'm going traveling for 5 weeks. Sorry, David.
Mate,
I don't want it enough.
I went traveling for 6 weeks in my off season, but like I said, I was training every day and getting Thai massages every day.
Yeah, I know you were. I've heard about them Thai massages. Right, guys. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Ciao, arrivederci.